Very interesting subject. So let's have a look at this one. Maybe we won't, maybe we will. Black holes are interesting beasts. Technically it's not a figure of 8, it's a bit more snowman-y than that. So we're in the plus, give or take, we're moving over, and this will become a minus, and this one will become the plus. It will shrink down. So one expands, the other one contracts. And it's very interesting because black holes are, you want to think of them as reverse engineers, and you want to think of stars as engineers. And the reason why black holes want to move together and merge with one another, because they're selfless. So if you have 1, 2, these are the black holes begin to merge. They're exchanging information with one another, is what they're doing. So all of the stuff that this one's learnt to defuse and this one's learnt to defuse, they're sharing this overall knowledge. And the knowledge is how to defuse these particular stars, and if these stars around here are now merged together. So if you've got 2 galaxies, dush, 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 doesn't matter on the shape or anything else, and you have another dush, 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 dush. These stars have learnt to do something with all of the bits that have been spat out, and these ones have learnt to do something different to what these ones have done. So yes, some chunks are going to be more so past iron, perhaps. Some are going to be a little bit more with the planets and different things like that, mixing all of this stuff up in a pot. And all the stars are really doing is buying time. Stars would have it that they would keep away. Black holes say, we come together, we've got to find this information out. So with this mystery composition versus this mystery composition, this black hole has been working out the stars in the vicinity, quite a few of them, and the same with this one. But yet, this one doesn't know how to defuse this composition here, or we say molecules or whatever, elements. And then when they begin to merge together, they share this information. And now they've got a much more, they basically are wardens keeping an eye on what's going on and what's being cooked up, and when they bring one forwards and munch down on it, they begin to learn, they begin to pick it apart, but it's going to take them a little bit of time. Yeah, again, time is pick this apart, okay, yeah, alright, now I'm going back, oh yeah, now I know this process is very familiar to me now, until it converts it back into a gas. And then these ones will begin to pull in with others and others and others and others and others. And again, the space. I don't know what we can call it. I think it's just eating a hair. I did. Did I get it? I did. Oh, muss. Interesting. So, when they begin to merge together, so yeah, the darkness of space, if we want to say that, the inky black, the stuff we can't see. Interesting. There is things there. You just cannot see it because in the mind is limited to what it can see. A bit like companies. So you could say it's limited. This limited understanding of things. So, dush, 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 dush. You can see all of this. Anything outside the spectrum, either way, it doesn't mean that it's not there. The air we breathe, it is definitely there. You know that. You may not be able to see it. It's a bit like magnetism as well. We know that something is going on beyond that, but why? Why is it doing that? Then you can figure things out, iron filings, magnetic field, different stuff like that. You can then begin to build instruments, tools. So you're a bit like a black hole in a way, that you are picking apart this information. So you want to think about it, that humans, when they begin to discover things and build things up to be able to see certain things, you are removing this information, and then you build something to be able to see it. So let's say if you can see magnetism, dush. You technically can't with your own eyes, but you can make instruments to then begin to see this and bring it into the visible spectrum. Black holes operate in a much same way. It's very interesting. And then we can say that we're, if we were to take this and I was to run it under my arm and put another one underneath my arm, depending on how powerful the magnet is, it will stick and it will move the object across my arm. Although I can't feel that force. I cannot physically feel it. You're born into it. But I can get its movement. I can move paper clips around on my hand depending on how strong that is, and it's like, whew, this is interesting, right? There's something going on, but I just cannot feel it. Unless you've got two magnets of equal and they begin to squish against you, again you might be able to feel it, but take the magnet by and large and rub it across yourself. You can't feel it. That you cannot feel. But you know there's a force going on. Again, you can't see it, but it doesn't mean it's not there. So we're breathing a gas in the environment. And then we exhale, and we're pushing out a gas. Now, we know that we can't see it, but we can feel it. And again, if we were to go into a bubble and seal it off, not a good idea, right? So you will know in that response, although you can't see it, you can feel it, and to observe it being inside a bubble that you seal off, you will then things will happen to you. It's not magic. Then you can say, I wonder, is there a gas there? Yes, two. In fact, you're breathing in one. There's more than two gases in that environment. There's multiple gases. But you can't see it. But you know it's there based on its effects with you. So there's another thing. Then you might be able to start making instruments that might bring this into the visible spectrum. And once again, here you are. Now you see something else. And we say infrared. In large amounts, yes. But in small amounts, no, you don't see it. And once again, here's another. And so on, 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 and so on. So, we want to look at space now as being the exact same thing. You cannot see it. And again, it's a bit like the air in the atmosphere, and it's a bit like magnetism. There's so much, by the way. There's so much. For you to learn this again, you'd have to be around for multiple amount of years. What happens if Einstein had more time? Again, there's only so much when you are existing as a species that you are able to see. Until you reach extinction, maybe. Or you keep on going. Then you begin to see more. Then, if you would have met extinction back, I don't know, after the Egyptians, something happened and it wiped out all of humans, you would only have known this much. I'll just let that chime itself out. Nice. Not quite right, but still, good enough. And the Egyptians would have gone extinct here, let's say. Ancient Egyptians would have been the last, and every life form, humans, extinct. Your knowledge bracket as a species would be catalogued as only getting this far. Again, you kept going. Keep going, 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 till when? Question mark. And then, you're then filling out a lot of information in this time. So in this time, what really happened? You saw this much, that much, and this much. Limited, but when you keep going, and you get older as a species, and you continue on, and continue on, and continue on, you might see stars explode. You're beginning to see stars form, but again, it's calculated based on a nebula, thinking back that this is probably how this come again. You never saw it, but you're seeing it, and you build the instruments again, brings things into the visible range, different stuff like that. Then you might see stars being explode. Perhaps you've seen something in the distance explode. Yeah. But you might experience this close star explode and bring in loads of debris, and again, enhances your understanding and a little bit more, and keep going, and same dip, and same dip. But the brain, oh, it's a very interesting thing, isn't it? It's very interesting. Could you imagine being able to see all of these things? It'd be so confusing, overwhelming. In fact, there would be no point having eyes. If you could hear every single sound, it's also with sounds as well. If you could hear all of this, there'd be no point having ears, because it's just noise. So much bloody noise. But again, microphone, different things like that. Let's say this is just seeing, this is one sensor, feeling, different things like that. Vibration, ooh, nice. Again, a lot of it is muted out, so you can only hear in this ratio too. You can only see in this ratio, doesn't mean that anything else is not happening beyond that. Again, if you met extinction here, if you were to ask dinosaurs if they could talk, imagine that they could. What did you see in your whole life time? They would say the universe was only like this, like this, like this, and like this. Then that's accepted, that that's your ratio, that's all you saw. But then if you were to ask humans, they'd be like, nah, we saw this. And then if you were to try and explain this to a dinosaur that already crossed over and imagining that it could speak, I think they would never believe you, would they? They'd argue the toss with you that they were right. But you'll be saying, but I saw it, now I might want some proof. Proof, everything needs proving. Prove me wrong, prove me right, prove me that. So, if you were to able to keep on going, and keep on living and get to the end, you would then begin to understand that this whole thing, given enough time, is a cycle. From one to the other, one to the other, one to the other, one to the other. Then if you make it 2 cycles, so one cycle from lots of stars to multiple black holes, different stuff like this, and all of the fabric begins being sucked into the black hole as well, so the very edges of the universe. What's beyond it? You would find it really hard to accept that there is nothing beyond it, wouldn't you? Because it doesn't fit. You just can't cram it into the mind, because again, the mind is limited to what it believes. But there again, do you think the mind can evolve to take this on, and then if you test it and different things like that, is there something outside of it? Well, you'll learn very quickly. But anyway, let's just imagine for a second there's nothing beyond it. Not that you would currently know, or anybody else for that matter. You are made up of a part of it. Can you be outside of it? Yeah, very unlikely. So let's say the whole of space begins to come into the black hole. There's a massive instability, and the whole thing begins to, eerily similar, start off again. Now, is it exactly the same fingerprint version of the last one? No. What about life forms to rise up? Now, that's an interesting one. That is very interesting. Again, when we ask these questions, it gets you thinking. You know, it's easy to give you all the answers, isn't it? But there again, you'd need to prove it. Again, say a few things and you'll go off and venture and find out whether it was right or wrong after all. Plus, do a load of pondering on top of it. So when you're doing things in the quantum world, which is exactly what you're living in, even in physical reality, there's quantum. Why is it quantum? Because it's invisible. You can't see it, but you feel its effects. You can't see all the inner makings of the mind, but you can feel it, experience it. Why? If someone's having a bad day, me for example, and I bitch at someone, they can see the inner workings that someone's not quite right. Or if I'm really chilled out, you can see the inner sides working outwards, and you can begin to feel that. But again, a bit like life as well, right? So the inner and outer. So again, you're in this environment, and apparently you can't see any of this stuff anyway. Maybe it's too small, maybe it's too this, maybe it's too that, or maybe you've just been tuned out of frequencies on certain things so that you can't see them, because it has a greater plan. A bigger plan is that you then merge into this empty space. Interesting. Then empty space that appears to be empty, you then begin to merge into this. Interesting. Very, very interesting. And what can you do with this stuff? Again, also very interesting. But let's say you begin to see the cycle 1, and then you see cycle number 2. Then what happens when the life forms are slightly different? Well, you wouldn't know this on cycle 2 because you need to be around for cycle 3. Again, cycle 3. Again, we got cycle 2, cycle 3. What you then learn you've survived one cycle, but you've still got lots missing, lots of data missing because the before. And then does this prove your theories back in the day to be correct on best guess? It all started from a singular point and expanded out into what you've got now. Again, it will either prove that, confirm or deny it. But you weren't alive for the first part of the cycle until you understand that you came into existence around this part of the cycle. But then how do you know where you are in this cycle? You'll only figure that out in cycle 2 But it doesn't mean you know everything, because what about the life forms that start rising up in here? Well, what do they look like? Are they the same? Is it slightly different? But by the time you get to cycle 3, that's then when it really either confirms or denies that theory, which is then things start looking rather different. And then mindsets, could they grow more? Is the life forms different in somehow? Are the planet formations a little bit similar? Not quite. Again, the best thing about black holes is don't give them any information. What you want is to create something that is outside of the continuum. Again, this is a very big point. I can't stress it enough. Do I have enough time? I have enough time to keep going. So you can't stress it enough. And what's that? So let's say you begin to make something, which we're backtracking and backpedaling, and I will flip back and forth because I enjoy it. Let's say you start to make something utilizing the fabric to create something that wouldn't form naturally, and it does form naturally because you are in the natural creating something that is not so natural. But again, it will be natural because you'll go further. If you make it past extinction and you don't go extinct, you'll begin to make things that are really, that nothing else would cook up on its own naturally without your influence. With your influence, it becomes natural. Interesting. Bend reality. And you begin to make something that is so powerful that when the last black hole is about, you'll know, because you'll test most things before it comes to this stage, and you'll notice that the final stars and black hole galaxy, when it begins to suck in the last little bits that are left, things get very small. To a degree, that you have created something that this black hole, final one, remember it's all merged and shared information, it doesn't know. And it's going to have an instability, but it's going to try and defuse you. But if it can't do it, it creates an instability and pop. And that's if any other life forms are there as well, which towards the end, by then, it's very important that you're all not going to war with one another, because you might need information from one another. Now, you create something that this doesn't know about. Therefore, it's going to take a long time to even figure that out. Then it depends on how long the instability lasts for before it pops. This will give you a good clue. Hopefully you don't go extinct in that moment. And if you've made things, we'll take a ruler for example. If the universe is able to create something naturally up to 0.7, we could say 6. Yeah, we're going to go 6. Forget 7. So if the universe makes something up to grade 6, and that's it, and the black holes understand how to defuse this, but you make something that's hitting grade 12, the universe is going to take an X amount of time to start coming back. By this point, when it starts reaching and tries to defuse your outer layers, again, because you'll be protected in layers like onion, it'll explode by then. Hopefully, if you get that far, it will then explode, and you will survive at grade 7, let's say, because it would have brought you back the outer layers. So you want to give it the strongest layer, followed by the next weakest layer. You'll create this from stars and different things like that. Don't worry, there'll be more help as it goes along. And then you'll then make another layer of grade 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Because you're going to be life forms inside this. You're going to require things at lower grades, but you're going to protect it with harder grades. And therefore, the black hole has got to spend some time to try and learn this information. And you want to keep it as far away from that learning process as possible so that it does create the instability and you're popped out the other side. And again, you need a lot of working mechanisms in there, because by the time the universe first starts out, there isn't really an awful lot. However, if you've learned a lot of stuff, how to make things from this gas, by then you'll know how to fuse, but you'll be limited to what you can create. When the first stars start to come about, you would have stayed nice inside your geode, cocoon, or whatever else you want to call it. Nature often is telling you a story, but backwards. It's interesting. By then, when things start to really progress, yeah, it'll be on your way. But the thing is, you can then continue to go past your grades to create more, because you've got more time to do so. Therefore, you've created a very good map towards the end of this cycle, if you make it. That's a big if. you can then begin to start with more time, anything else. If you're creating life forms and you are able to soul capture by this point, and like I say, you have enough time, what can you do? Anything is possible. I'm possible. No such thing as impossible. But you can then start sooner at the beginning with this knowledge that you retained at a halfway point, 3/4 point, and you can take this with you. And now your knowledge is really, really expanding, but you're still learning because it's second cycle now, and then you're beginning to catch up. But you then create things that are even more stronger, and then given more time and given more know-how, and with the very tools that you have on board, and the universe starts to take off, and more gases means more expanding. You can expand more in this. Given more time, how many more grades can you reach? And interesting, really, isn't it? Why the universe would choose to create vessels this side of the biome as opposed to the other side of the biome. Because, by and rights, you can move the universe further than what it could currently do on its own. Interesting. Life forms play a very major role in this. You can begin to move it. Now, what was the saying that you were able to put this heavy material into action in the beginning? Does this change the very shape of the universe? And then life forms, planets, stars, and different things like that. Likewise, you could destroy it, and it stops the whole cycling process. But I'm pretty sure that the wiser life forms that have gone through multiple cycles, well, by then it would be interesting to share this information, but they would be the gatekeepers, the true gatekeepers. And then the universe can expand further, can't it? Move further, and I'm limited for time. Oh, very good. And then this knowledge ratio here, it's a big spectrum, right? Where does it end? Wouldn't you want to find out more and more and more and more and more and more? And with the more minds that you have and the more expansion, now the planet formations are starting and the gases of familiarity are starting to come out. That means more nature, more this, more expansion, because you'll be limited. You'll definitely be limited, because hopefully your species, all of them, would have started to expand within this ratio, filling up inside this cocoon, geode. And then you begin to bust at the seams, and you will need to create even bigger, but you'll need even more resources. Again, if you had enough time and enough this and enough that, you'd be able to do it. Now with more in the universe, and then off you go. But if the black holes learn you at a young age, they will diffuse anything beyond 12, and they will hold this knowledge and be able to pick it apart. That's extinction. It must never learn what you create. That's why rubbish would not be a good idea, to leave little remnants around. And new wars would start, wouldn't they? People would try and sabotage you if they figured out what you made. They could probably put this in, give the black hole something to chew on, and after all, depending on where they get it, ooh, dicey, they could learn that very quickly. And again, if they kept taking fragments from you and throwing it in, these particular black holes would be able to learn what you're building and therefore be able to destroy it. This breaches your defenses. A whole new level of war then, isn't it? Oof, interesting. It's best not to. Best to find friends before you get to that stage. And then the next cycle continues, and you begin to, recognize this stage. By cycle 3, there's an interesting one. You then become very familiar with this and the changes. Then can you predict the next changes that are going to happen? Now that is the question, isn't it? By then you'll have expanded even more so. All matter must go inside the final black hole to create the instability. And what came first, life forms or the universe? Which ones? And how many cycles? Interesting, isn't it? Who created the instability? And it's within your best interest that it continues on, because you'll always reach a buffer zone. You don't ever want to reach the buffer zone with nothing to be able to create from, unless you can create the very fabrics and do all of this semantics and everything else, but become a very lonely, boring place. When more life forms come, then there's more mixing happening with the life forms. This is another thing entirely. You can transition your species, especially if there is breeding go on, and its compatibility versus that technology should be there. Oof. And then it begins to change again and change again and change. It's a wonderful thing, wonderful experience, absolutely beautiful. And then you become the teachers and everything else, and power would be for each and every single one of you, not just a few. You all become the teachers, and the modelling process then begins to happen. Now, is there a purpose beyond this? Oh, yes, there is. There definitely is purpose beyond this. It's interesting, no? Because what happens if the keys for the next level of unlocking are in this fabric stuff here? We don't want to jump the gun, though, trying to work that out too soon. You need to understand an awful lot of stuff about the cycling and different things like that. And perhaps the puzzle pieces lie in life forms that are yet to even rise up. Interesting, isn't it? Isn't this very interesting? You can have so much fun with this. In the quantum, bring the quantum into the physical, blah de blah, right, vice versa, and it's wonderful. Wonderful time to be. Now, is there anything beyond that? I mean, it would keep you going, though, wouldn't it? If there was something beyond all of this, and there was a purpose behind all of this. But again, not everything at once. A lot of learning first, and then you got to make it. Extinction, never a great thing. Numbers in your species, very important. You need large numbers. Very big numbers. More out scouting about, collecting stuff. Whew. More learning, more this, more puzzle pieces. The puzzle pieces are definitely inside future generations. There'll be no point in dumbing you down, only bringing you up. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. That puzzle piece looks a bit more like a person, but still. Where would you rather be in that? Would you want to find out? Do you not want to find out? Is it too difficult? Is this too hard? Again, go and extinct whilst you only achieve this type of level here. Yeah, that's what we call game over. If it's game over, cherry pick what you need. This can always be brought back. Future puzzle pieces and everything else. Isn't it interesting? I'm fascinated over this. This is a subject that I like to think about quite a bit. And I'm running out of time, so yeah. This stuff is the fun side of it. All the rest of the other semantics, man, so complex, and it doesn't need to be. This stuff is so simple. So very simple. Where would you like to be in that? What? Finish at this level? Extinction, only learn so much? Or the full deck, collecting the full deck? That's real knowing then, isn't it? Because you got to follow this stuff in order to get to that level of knowing, right? Cross it off as you go. Lots of learning, building. How many failed spacecrafts must you make in order to find the one that works? 1, 2, 3. Oof. See them rise, see them fall. Anyway, gonna leave this one here, considering I touched a little bit on there. That will give you something to chew on. Yeah, definitely does me. It's great, fascinating. Where does it lead? Where's this all heading? Interesting.